What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ravi Wadden, and arguably the greatest Toyota lease deal of all time is back for another month on the 2024 Toyota BZ4X. Now, in the first part of this video, what we'll do is we'll head over to toyota.com and we'll study this lease offer in detail. We'll talk about the mileage, we'll talk about the monthly payment, the due at signing amount, etc. We'll go over all of the little details, and I'll also give you guys lots of helpful tips and tricks along the way that will help you with your car leasing journey, whether or not you are leasing this particular car. And then in the second part of this video, what we'll do is we'll run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Toyota BZ4X. And my 1.25% rule of leasing is just a rule of thumb that I use to determine whether or not a particular lease deal is a good lease deal in terms of value. And ladies and gentlemen, this Toyota BZ4X is an amazing lease deal in terms of value. And then in the third part of this video, what we'll do is we'll compare the monthly finance payments on this Toyota BZ4X to the monthly lease payments, and that will show you why leasing this particular car is a financial no-brainer. And I'll also give you guys some tips on how you can find this car for yourself and how you can get a dealer to actually honor the lease offer that Toyota has advertised. Because when we go to the Toyota.com, it's actually a manufacturer offer. It's not a dealer offer. So I'll give you guys some helpful tips and tricks on how you can get dealers to actually honor the manufacturer's offer. So if that sounds good to you, please like this video for the algorithm. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the computer behind me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are on Toyota.com, and you're looking at arguably the greatest Toyota lease deal in the history of time. Right now, you can lease a 2024 Toyota BZ4X XLE for just $189 a month. It's a 36-month lease that requires $2,999 due at signing. Now, as you can see, this lease is based on 10,000 miles a year, but if you need a 12 or a 15,000 mile a year lease, you can get that, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to leasing is that you only get 10,000 miles per year. But if you know you drive 12 or 15,000 miles a year, it's actually better to get that up front rather than pay the excess mileage penalty, which, as you can see here, if I can actually zoom in, is 15 cents per mile. Now, if we study this lease in further detail, you'll see that this car also has an MSRP of $46,093, and the due at signing amount includes the $650 acquisition fee. And if you were to turn this lease in at the end of the lease term, you would have to pay a $350 disposition fee at the end of the lease term. And that is pretty standard when it comes to leasing. All leases, when you have to turn them in, you have to pay a disposition fee or a turn-in fee. And another thing that I want to point out here, if we can just zoom in here, is that you have a lease end purchase option of $19,820. So, ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to leasing is that, you can't keep the car long term and you can't buy the car. But as you can see here, if you do want to keep the car long term, you can buy the car for $19,820. And you typically only want to do this if you have positive equity in the car, which means that the car at the end of the lease term is worth more than $19,820. And then you want to exercise a few different options. If the car is worth less than $19,820, it doesn't make sense to keep the car. At that point, you're just better off financially to just turn the car back in. Now, in terms of trim, this is a two-wheel drive XLE electric one-speed model. So it's not the all-wheel drive model, because last month I believe they had a lease special on the all-wheel drive model as well. And another important thing I want to point out, and sorry we're kind of jumping around here, is that the $2,999 that's due at signing, it's not misleading, but it's not completely accurate, because this doesn't account for registration fees. As you can see here, it doesn't account for taxes, title, license, registration fees, and dealer options. And this lease deal is actually located in, I'm using this zip code, 90001, which is a Southern California zip code. So when you factor in the taxes that you'll have to pay on the rebates, and you factor in registration fees, you're probably looking at least another $1,000 to $1,500 at minimum on top of this $2,999 that's due at signing. Now, in this part of the video, what I want to do is run my 1.25% rule of leasing on this Toyota BZ4X, because the 1.25% rule of leasing is just a metric that I use to determine whether or not a car is a good lease deal in terms of value. Because, anytime we see a $189 monthly payment with $3,000 down, we really don't have any context. Like, are we talking about a $50,000 car, a $60,000 car, or is it a $10,000 car? The monthly payment doesn't really give us, any valuable information. It doesn't provide us with any context, and that's what my 1.25% rule of leasing does. It's really easy to do, and I'll show you how I do it in this part of the video. Now, to run my 1.25% rule of leasing, all I'm going to do is take the due at signing amount of $2,999, and I'm going to subtract the first month's payment of $189, or the monthly payment, because that's included in this due at signing amount. And when I do that, I get $2,810. Now what I'm going to do is actually divide this by the lease term, which is 36 months, and that takes that due at signing amount and it breaks it up into 36 equal parts, and that gives me $78. Now what I'm going to do is actually add the monthly payment of $189 back into this amount, and that gives me a pre-tax monthly payment with $0 down, because I rolled in this due at signing amount into the monthly payment with $0 down, of $267 a month. And if I want to factor in taxes, I'm just going to multiply this by 1.1 to account for 10% sales tax. And that would give me a $0 down monthly payment, including taxes, of $293 a month. Now what I'm going to do, the last step of the 1.25% rule of leasing, is to divide this monthly payment by the vehicle's MSRP, and in this case it's $46,093, as you can see down here. And when I do that, I get 0.0064. I'll multiply this by 100 to move the decimal point over 2 spots, and I get 0.63%. Now, the way the 1.25% rule of leasing works is that anytime your monthly payment with $0 down, including taxes, is less than 1.5% of a vehicle's MSRP, that's a good lease deal. That's a car that you're getting a good lease deal on. If your monthly payment with $0 down, including taxes, is less than 1.25% of the vehicle's MSRP, that's a great lease deal. And if your monthly payment, is less than 1% of the vehicle's MSRP, that's an amazing lease deal. And that's, there's only a certain amount of cars, very few cars are sub 1% lease deals, and they're mainly electric or plug-in hybrids. And as you can see here, the Toyota BZ4X is not only a sub 1% lease deal, it's a 0.63% lease deal. So it's a sub 0.7% lease deal, making this an amazing lease deal in terms of value. And now really quickly, I want to go to the auto loan calculator to show you guys why leasing this car makes so much sense. So if I use an auto price of $46,093, which is the MSRP of this car, and I use a loan term of 72 months and an interest rate of 0%, because 72 months at 0% is the current offer from Toyota right now. I'm not going to use a down payment. I'm going to use California as my state. Where is California? There it is. I'll use 10% as the sales tax rate, and I'll include all fees and loan, which is $2,300. And when I calculate this, you'll see I get a monthly payment of $736 a month. And if I bring the calculator back out, you'll see that the monthly lease payment with $0 down, including taxes, is just $293 a month. And even if I discount this vehicle's selling price from $46,093, let's just discount it. Let's do something drastic. Let's lower it by $20,000. You'll see that the monthly payment is still $430 a month, compared to an effective monthly payment with $0 down, including taxes, when you lease this car, of $293 a month. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why, leasing this Toyota BZ4X just makes a lot of financial sense. And for those of you that are saying, hey, but when you lease a car, you're renting a car, that simply isn't true. As you can see here, when we read the fine print, and as I mentioned earlier in this video, you do have a purchase option at the end of the lease term to buy this car for $19,820. Now, the biggest challenges with the Toyota BZ4X lease deal that I just talked about is actually finding available inventory near you, and then finding a dealer that will actually honor this lease deal. So here are a few tips and tricks that I think will save you guys a lot of time and a lot of headache. The first tip is to use a service like cars.com or autotrader.com, and maybe use a filter. Maybe you can search within a radius of 500 miles of where you live, and then look for for Toyota BZ4Xs that have a similar or the same MSRP as the vehicle that you saw in this video. And my second tip is once you identify or you find a couple of dealers that have this Toyota BZ4X is to use email to reach out to them. Please don't call them because you might just end up with a salesperson that doesn't really know what they're talking about. They don't know about this lease deal. And you're just going to waste a bunch of time. And definitely do not drive into the dealership and do not go in person. You might, fall victim to some pressure sales tactics. My suggestion would be to reach out to the internet sales department. They usually know about deals like this, and they are far more likely to honor a deal like this rather than just a salesperson that you talk to on the phone or that you see when you visit the dealership. And another suggestion that I just thought of is to actually visit Toyota dealerships websites that are near you, because not all dealerships are posting their inventory on cars.com or autotrader.com. So sometimes you actually have to be a bit more granular and actually go to the Toyota dealership website near you and then just kind of search through their inventory and then filter by Toyota BZ4X and find a similar car to the one that I mentioned in this video. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a video. If you have any questions about this particular lease deal or leasing in general, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Just leave them in the comment section below. Happy Friday, everybody. Financial knowledge is power. Please like and follow for more.